Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, our representatives in Washington have strong words about the Trump impeachment. The basketball Cats fall short in Vegas, and we'll recap a historic early signing period for UK football. All that and more is next on Hey, Kentucky. Welcome to Hey, Kentucky. Former State Auditor Adam Edlin is my co-host tonight. I mean, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to have a 9-hour segment of Hey Kentucky to cover everything, but it's great to be with you.
Thank you. It's great. I'm glad to have you here because we need some political insight. This was historic events unfolding in Washington this week as Donald Trump has become just our third president to be impeached. Kentucky's Republican leaders aren't shy about voicing their objections. Congressman Thomas Massie, Brett Guthrie, Hal Rogers, Andy Barr, James Comer, they all tweeted about their no votes in the U.S. House. Louisville Democrat John Yarmouth is the only yes vote, saying hell will be too good for Trump. Rand Paul called the investigation a sham that will end in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell had these words.
This particular House of Representatives has let its partisan rage at this particular president create a toxic new precedent that will echo well into the future.
McConnell has said he will do everything he can to protect the president, who goes on trial in the Senate, saying he is not an impartial juror. Although House Speaker Nancy Pelosi threw uncertainty into the process by refusing to say when she would send 2 impeachment articles to the Senate. Adam, this was must-see TV last night. I was glued to it, even though I knew the outcome.
Right.
We all knew the outcome, and we all kind of know what the outcome is going to be once this eventually goes to the Senate.
But it is history, and this is only the third time in our country's history that we've had a president impeached. I got my boys out to watch this last night because their kids and grandkids will ask them about this. And I think it's a shame that the country seems so divided, but I believe you have to have the rule of law, and I hope that there is a full trial in the Senate, as I think our founders sort of viewed when they designed this process. And my guess is Pelosi and McConnell are playing high-stakes chicken right now, and they're 2 very tough operators. And I think it'll come to some kind of conclusion very soon. But there's going to be a trial in the Senate, and I think the country will be well served if there's a full vetting of the facts.
But will there be? As I'm just not sure. As McConnell has said, the Senate is in fact the jury.
That's right.
And they have said they're not impartial.
So many
jurors.
are not impartial, and we've never seen a president impeached in their first term. So what will be interesting about this is that really vindication or condemnation for President Trump is really going to come at the ballot box a year from now. And I think impeachment really does just lay the predicate for what's going to be an incredibly divisive, hateful campaign next year. But, the country's been through worse, and we'll survive this. But this is historic.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell is taking credit for legislation that will stabilize the pensions and health benefits of retired coal miners and their widows. The bipartisan American Miners Act of 2019 is being included in a government spending package to extend health retirement benefits for miners impacted by coal company bankruptcies over the past 2 years. But one major piece is missing from the legislation. There's no provision for the Black Lung Disability Trust Fund. McConnell has previously faced criticism for lack of action on these issues. Adam, it's good that something is being done.
It is good that something's being done, but not everything that ought to be having done is happening. Yeah. And so thank you, Senator from McConnell, for moving this. But where have you been for years? I mean, the phenomenon that's occurring in coal country now is that miners are getting black lung in their 30s now as opposed to in their 50s or 60s. And there's been some great coverage. Sydney Bowles is a wonderful reporter in Eastern Kentucky who's writing about how as the coal seams shrink, and the miners are going in there, the silicate is getting in their lungs and they're dying earlier, and their spouses aren't getting the benefits that they're deserved. So nobody needs to break their arm patting themselves on the back. What they needed to do is move this a long time ago, and we need legislation that makes sure that we do right by the people who've empowered the industrial development of this country for 100 years.
All right. Turning to state politics now. One of Matt Bevin's more controversial pardons is being investigated by a Northern Kentucky prosecutor. In the case of convicted child rapist Micah Schotel, the former governor called the investigation and prosecution sloppy at best. But the Commonwealth's attorney says it's mind-boggling, how any governor could be this irresponsible. He is from an influential family but has no established or direct tie between them in political contributions for Bevin, as in other cases. But meanwhile, a Republican lawmaker plans to propose a constitutional amendment to ensure that future governors cannot give out pardons or commuted sentences in the month leading up to an election and for the time between an election and swearing in of a new governor. Adam, I'm not sure that does anything, because I'm okay with the power to pardon.
Me too.
These were just grave
abusive.
errors.
Listen,
Yes.
I've been around Kentucky politics for a long time. This by 2 touchdowns is the worst thing that I have ever seen. And, you know, it may say a lot about people thought I was crazy, but as state auditor, I embedded the FBI in my office. Probably the only politician in Frankfort who's ever done that. They will look into this. I have no doubt that there will be an investigation, because at worst, there's an appearance that political capital and wealth was used to influence the pardon process. At least, at the very worst, you have extraordinarily bad judgment. All of this raises questions. These are questions that need to be answered, and I have no doubt that law enforcement authorities at both the federal and the state level will be investigating Governor Bevin. And if I had a piece of advice for him, it would be lawyer up.
Yeah, because there is there's just no excuse for it. And you're basically calling all of the Commonwealth's attorneys and prosecutors and juries in your state.
That's right.
Saying they don't know what they're talking
And
about.
the condemnation has been across the board.
Yeah.
There's literally no one of any stature in the political community or the government or civic body in this state who's defending Matt Bevin, and nobody can.
No. All right. Andy Beshear, meanwhile, continues to make headlines as he settles into the office of governor. The Democrat has withdrawn Matt Bevin's executive order aimed at former House Minority Leader Rocky Atkins that would have prevented him and at least one other former lawmaker from inflating their legislative pensions as they accept high-level positions in the Beshear administration. Meanwhile, Senate President Robert Stivers and House Education Chair Regina Hoff are both criticizing the governor's decision to reorganize the Kentucky Board of Education. And finally, Beshear has signed an executive order ending the previous administration's Medicaid waiver, saying it will protect health care for nearly 100,000 Kentuckians. Adam, he said from the outset, I'm going to rip apart the Board of Education.
Nobody can accuse Andy Beshear of not doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And he said, I'm going to reconstitute the State Board of Education with people who have my view on public education. He said, I'm going to...
And actual education experience,
which is a nice change. in protecting the health care of the 400,000 people in Kentucky who got it through the Medicaid expansion isn't just the smart thing to do, it's the moral thing to do. And I think Andy's made 2 very good steps in his first week.
And what Rocky is getting is not unlike what other
Oh, no, it's
politicians-
legal,
Yeah.
and a lot of politicians have done it. It's not a great look,
Yeah.
but there's nothing illegal or unethical about the decision.